Obviously, yesterday, the state of Oklahoma executed another person in our name. Um, and, just this juxtaposition. I'm just showing a couple tweets here of like the Oklahoman talking about Rose Day at the Capitol, which is like the big anti abortion rally in the House chambers. And then, of course, same day, we are executing another person in McAllister. And, of course, claiming we are pro-life. Stitt, of course, has the power to stop that and chose not to. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what we can say about this other than hope legislation makes it to the table to repeal the death penalty.
So
Yeah.
I want to point out something interesting that Dylan Goforth wrote about earlier on Twitter. I'm trying to find it because it was a really good thread about. Okay, here we go. So, as you may know, there was a moratorium on executions for a while, I believe, because of the lawsuit that's going on right now. And Oklahoma actually goes to trial on February 25th, I believe, with this lawsuit. Obviously, they've resumed executions, and so here we are. And so it's interesting because the big argument against executions here has, been that they're cruel and unusual. People are coming out, saying, no, they're not, everything's fine. We fixed the process, all of these things. And Dylan Goforth writes a thread today talking about the drug that we actually use now, midazolam, I believe it's called. And this is not a painless way to die. As a matter of fact, this causes your lungs to fill up with fluid, and it's not an anesthetic. So you're basically paralyzed, I believe, but you can still feel. And so people are effectively drowning alive. After the investigations into the autopsies of John Grant, who was one of the last people executed here, the average pair of lungs weigh 900 to 1,000 grams. Grant's lungs weighed 1,300 grams, and Bigler Stouffer, which is the last person we executed, his lungs weighed more than 1,500 grams. And so effectively, we are torturing people to death by drowning them alive in their own blood. And like, this is just insane.
That's
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
So we go to trial. The state goes to trial about this on February 25th. And it's been anticipated that basically, those trying to end the death penalty here, we're going to lose the case due to some stupid discrepancies. However, this is not okay. We cannot just settle for this. Like, we need to be rallying around this. I'll be posting information as I can find it, because we need to be bringing as much attention to this as possible. Like, it's not okay to say that killing is bad by killing other people. Like, what kind of example are we setting?
Dark Ages. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but isn't that example on purpose though? Like, if you're a black person deciding to exist in the state of Oklahoma and you don't do anything wrong, and like, isn't this exactly what we designed by ourselves?
I mean, it just speaking to that, being a black person living in Oklahoma, like, we know outside of, torturing people alive, just the disparities that the death sentence gets handed down to people. Um, you know, Black people are sentenced at astronomical rates, the death penalty over, whites, Hispanics, Native Americans. And Gilbert Postel was not black, but at the same time, like, just the discrimination is out there. There's so many reasons to end the death penalty. Someone told me, I believe, that we're spending 2 to 5 million for each inmate that we have on death row, and we have, I believe, 45 inmates, 46 inmates on death row here in Oklahoma. It costs 3 times as many tax dollars to execute a person than it does to put them, on a life sentence. And I don't agree with life without parole. I don't even agree with prisons. I'm an abolitionist. But, if we're going to take the centrist, moderate kind of route here, like literally it saves tax dollars to just not kill people.
Yeah, and to respond to a couple comments, I mean, yes, there are objective observers present. I mean, the issue is, so like, I think Storm Jones was the observer for this latest one. He seemed to report that it went, as planned, as much as you can plan state murdering of someone. But like the issue that like Dylan brought up was these were autopsies done later. So it's like in this case, I think it was like weeks and months later. So it's like we don't even find out till weeks or months later that like people drowned on their own vomit, like horrible stuff. I mean, and this has been the problem with this process. I mean, other than just being immoral and evil, is, we don't know it's bad until well after the fact. I mean,
a physician told an Ohio court he believed that midazolam resulted in torturous deaths. The court blocked its use. An appeals court later reversed the decision, but one man in Ohio took nearly an hour to die and was found with the bloody, frothy liquid filling his lungs. In Arizona in 2014, a man being executed with the cocktail coughed, gasped, and wheezed for an hour during a 2-hour execution. It took so long to kill them that his lawyers filed legal motions with the court during the execution. That's in Dylan Goforth's thread. Shout out to Dylan because, it can't be easy. Has to be traumatic covering these types of, situations and, the level of research and energy you have to put into this. But that's insane. It took 2 hours to kill someone. Can you imagine drowning for 2 hours?
Yeah. And so we keep doing this in our name. And, the only real recourse we have right now, I mean, because obviously Stitt doesn't care. I mean, he made sort of the half-right decision in the Julius Jones case, but in all these other ones, he's just not done anything. There is legislation moving through potentially this session to put it to a state question. I will agree again with one of our commenters on Facebook that, it's going to be a tough sell, I think, to this electorate, but I don't know. I mean, nationally, the death penalty has been declining in in popularity.
For over 3 decades.
Yeah, for a long time. I think the most persuasive, I mean, if people want a book recommendation on it, Just Mercy, Bryan Stevenson, I think he makes the argument better than, like, anyone else. He has studied it. He has argued it as a lawyer. He just has both the heart and the head argument against the death penalty down better than anyone else I've ever read. So highly recommend that if you're even remotely on the fence about it or interested in the issue. I think Bryan Stevenson makes a extremely compelling case for ending it completely. But yeah, this is Oklahoma. Any other comments before jumping on?
The cognitive dissonance is deafening.
Yeah. It's really just unbelievable.